Welcome back to another episode of Flawless Play in Garage, where today we're going to do something really different. Normally all I do on this channel is take cars and cut them up and basically ruin them and make them worse in every conceivable way. Today, we're actually going to drive one. And the one we're going to drive today is my 2000 Acura Integra Type R, the DC2 Type R, the legendary car. And what we're going to try and do is figure out, what is it any good? Is it actually fun? Because to be perfectly honest, I was never super emotionally attached to the Type R growing up. Knew about him, appreciated him. You can hear the story of how I accidentally bought it without really intending to from a few weeks ago. Today we're going to try to answer that question of what's so special about it? Is it even really that special 20 years on? Does the magic hold still true? And does it appeal to somebody even who doesn't have that deep emotional attachment from my teenage years on this car? Let's take it on a road trip onto the beautiful rolling hills of southern Missouri. And let's find out. A big destination of mine was this trip coming up to the Lake of the Ozarks area in Missouri and enjoy some quality time between 5,700 and 8,400 RPM. Perhaps some VTEC, yo. Let's cut to the action. So the big question, what is it like to drive? Well, it's really good. And it's taken me a little time to actually kind of drive it and experience it enough to sort of get it, But because to be honest, I was never really super into Type R's and Hondas as a kid. I appreciated them and enjoyed them and drove a few hot Civics and stuff like that friends had back in the day and appreciated them, but it just wasn't necessarily my big thing, my big heart's desire. I kind of get it now. So there's just something about these, golden era Hondas that they really got right. And it's something about that interaction between the steering, the suspension, the rigidity of the body, it's just that magic formula that automakers get every once in a while where they kind of get that balance right. So the steering is incredibly precise and immediate and tight. It feels like there is just no slack anywhere in the entire system. But at the same time, you still get feel, you get a natural amount of weight, and I feel like not only could I tell you which side of the coin is up when I drive over it, but I could just put this thing within a quarter of an inch of where I want it on the road. It's just very precise, and it doesn't feel artificial at all, as you would expect on something in this era. The suspension is pretty firm, but it's not really harsh. Overall though, man, on a back road, it is just a fantastic dance partner because it will soak up some bumps, but it settles in and takes a set, and you've got pretty minimal amounts of body roll and this lightweight, playful chassis that is willing to rotate under the right conditions, but mostly is still very predictable and very easy to work with. Just goes where you want it to go. It doesn't, some of these front-wheel drive cars got a little bit of a reputation, for that lift throttle oversteer or being trail baked into some oversteer. And as Car and Driver famously said about the S2000, the AP1s, some drivers have discovered inappropriate vehicle rotation at the point of disappearing talent. And so I know it's possible to get yourself into trouble, but man, really forgiving. And good old VTEC giving you two engines for the price of one. Or if you've tried to price an old B18 C5 lately, two engines for the price of 5 or 6. So many great sports cars of really any era, it's just fun. It talks to you, communicates with you you, it involves you in the experience, it asks something of you as a driver, and the limits are pretty high, but they're not obscene. You know, we're talking about 15-inch tires that are not spectacularly wide, and a roughly 200 horsepower car that weighs 2,600 pounds, I forget exactly. And it's enjoyable and fun on a back road, and you don't really have to be doing a ridiculous miles per hour. You know, this is a 55-mile-an-hour road, and I'm not really even speeding, but I'm having a great time. And even as a highway cruiser, it's really not bad. It's certainly busy, you know, on the highway with the ride quality, and it's not the most relaxing place to be, but it's not bad. Did 500 miles in it a day or two ago, and you know, pretty comfortable still at the end of that. I have to admit, you know, there are times where I wished for cruise control, but ultimately it's smooth enough that, and especially with the factory exhaust, it's not that loud, and so even at 4,200 RPM at highway speeds, it's not that bad. It's perfectly tolerable. Regrets, I have a few, but then again, too few to mention. Not true, actually. I will mention a couple of regrets. The tires, oh my goodness, huge mistake. I put Kumho like PA31, like a high performance all season tire on it, and that was a huge mistake. My thinking was like, well, you know, they're black and round. Fresh rubber is always better than the old dry stuff that was on it. I was also starting to cord in a couple of spots, and I thought, man, it's going to mostly sit in storage for the next several years, but I want to be able to take it out on the occasional little trip like this and not be afraid of, well, if I get caught with one slightly frosty morning or something, I don't want to immediately die. So I thought, I'll just put an all-season, inexpensive all-season on it. Huge mistake. They're a 460 tread-wear tire, and it genuinely makes the car less enjoyable because the limits are so low on these tires. So don't make that mistake. If you've got a Type R, put some good, sticky compound tires on it, because it does change the dynamics of the car. Also, the steering wheel, it actually, it feels kind of great. It's an NRG, some kind of period correct AutoZone mod. And the quick disconnect, it's kind of nice to have a quick disconnect on the wheel, but overall, not great. Just think it looks bad. So I've got a stock steering wheel that'll go back on it here in the near future. But overall, what a fantastic car. What a great balance, a great blend of attributes in such a friendly and easy to use and just special feeling package. They're just never going to make cars like this again. They've just announced recently the Integra is going to come back for 2021, but there's no way it's going to capture the magic of this car. The balance, the 8,400 RPM screaming red line, the duality of the personality, and just the way that it balances and plays with you on a back road. A level of communication and involvement with the driver that you just are not going to find again from Honda or Acura, in my opinion. So it's a special car from a special point in time. I'm glad I got to experience it. Hope you've enjoyed it here with me too. And we're back. No mechanical issues on the trip. It is a Honda after all. Everything ran perfectly, ran smoothly. AC was cold. Everything worked great. I got right at 30 miles per gallon average for the whole trip and didn't really even miss the cruise control that badly. Wasn't really that big of a deal. Held speed just fine, and it's not loud enough to be irritating or anything on a longer highway trip. Overall, really enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Have you had a fun, enjoyable trip in a car that you didn't really expect to own? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.